Okay, this is my adventure of trying to get the alternator off of the Prado 150. I'll bring you up to speed. I've done a few things already. I've already stripped the front down, but I'll tell you what's happened and what I've gone through, and how I came to getting my alternator out, which was proving to be a bit of a challenge. Okay, so it started with the alternator light coming on. I did the usual thing, test for the fuses. The fuse box located here, just next to the battery. I don't know if you can see that. There it is, just there. So that's the alternator fuse at 120 amps. And I think down here somewhere, I think it is, you'll need to check I think that's the 7.5 amp field winding fuse for the rotor. So the story was, okay, I checked it. The battery was at 2.13 volts. Low, I mean, it was charged, but it was lowish. And when I turned the alternator on, the voltage sunk down to 11.36 volts, indicating that there was additional drain on the battery, which was just the system electrics like the radio, the lights and whatever. But there was no charge coming out of the alternator. So in trying to work out how to get the alternator out, I don't know if you can see it. You can see I've taken some stuff off, but you can see the alternator's just down here. That's the alternator. In trying to reach that, I couldn't work out how to get to it. So I put a question up to the WA Prado 4x4 Facebook page. It was answered by a couple of guys, especially hats off to you, Anthony 4x4. Appreciate your tip on how to get the alternator out. So the go is that you can't get the alternator out through here. You've actually got to go through the side, which is the right hand side or driver's side front wheel. So the wheel's back on at the moment, and I don't know if you can see this. Hang on, let me get a light. So in there I've taken off the little plastic cover, and from there you can see that the alternator is exposed. So that from there is actually where my problems began. So I took the serpentine belt off first, and to do that there's a tension pulley which you have to manipulate, and there it is. I don't know if you can see that. There, it's got the larger bolt head on it. It's got the largest bolt head on it. So leave my finger there and I'll draw it out so you can see roughly where it is. But it's the only one with the larger bolt head on it. And what you need to do is you need to actually get a socket onto it, a 14mm socket, and you actually, with a breaker bar, it's a bit hard like that. Hang on a second, I need to put the phone down for two secs. Okay, so with the breaker bar in place, so you can actually, sorry, I'm wiggling a little bit. With the breaker bar in place, so you can actually tension against the spring tension. You actually twist it this way, and I don't know if you can see it, but as I'm twisting it, the actual tension roller is actually moving, and what that does is it releases the belt, so you can hang on to it and hang on to the tension rather, and slip the belt off of the alternator pulley. And once you've done that, you obviously release and take the nut off. So that got the belt off. So once I got the belt off, I then proceeded to try and get the bottom bolt out of the alternator from the bottom mount. That went well. Again, that was a 14mm bolt from memory. And that was just simply using a socket with a breaker bar, which actually happens to be this one here I'm using. Fits over the top of my little socket handle, and this actually happens to be the handle to my hydraulic car pump. It just seems to fit quite well and just gives me that extra little bit of torsion to break the bond. So the bottom bolt came out well, that was no problems. Then I went to try and get the top bolt out, and it was, when I was trying to do this, there was the fan cowling and the fan was still in place. The problem is that in trying to squeeze my hands in the, I've got big hands, trying to squeeze it into the gap with the 14mm socket and the breaker bar, in trying to get the nut off, sorry, the bolt out rather, the socket twisted slightly and successfully managed to round over. And there was nothing I could do to try and reseat the socket. It just wouldn't grip anymore. So at that point I threw my hands in the air trying to work out what I should do and how to get this bolt out. So a couple of guys suggested spraying CRC or WD-40 on it, which I did, but I didn't see that it would help a great deal given that there was no corrosion on it. But you know, any little bit helps, so I sprayed it anyway, and I still couldn't get the socket to seat. So my solution for that was, I discovered online through Supercheap, they have a Tool Pro, have a bolt extraction set of sockets which work really well. Let me show you this. Okay, so I'll put it in the light and I'll see if I can zoom in and get that focused. You can see how it's actually got like teeth that actually grip and grab the flats rather than try and torque on the corners. This worked amazingly well. I can't recommend it enough. This was just the 14mm Supercheap Tool Pro series bolt extractor. And the other thing, you know, I wasn't mucking around anymore. Wanted to get serious, and I think, you know, okay, they cost a little bit, but if you're doing this sort of stuff, it just works so long as you're careful and you don't go like a bull at a gate. But I went and got one of these little King Chrome. It's called a King Chrome stubby impact wrench. Now this supposedly puts out 960 odd Newton meters of torque. You can see it's fairly low profile. Sorry, I'm trying to get the best angle if you're feeling a bit sick. But this was amazing. I should have done this the first go, you know. It didn't even get up to full speed. I half pressed the trigger down and it just spun it out like there was no stopping it. And if you have a look, you can see that, you know, with the fan and the cowling out, that the profile of this rattle gun is so small that it fits pretty much anywhere in the front of the engine, so you can actually get a socket onto most sorry, I'm trying to get a good view. It's a bit hard. I don't know if you can see that, but you can actually see, this is the idler pulleys that I can actually easily get a socket onto. I'm not going to muck around with sockets and spanners anymore when I could actually just get this in here, you know, for an extra 15 minutes of taking the fan off and the fan cowling. It's not worth mucking around, guys. You just get one of these. I think I paid $290 odd, but I see it as an investment that you're always going to have. It's not a one-off thing, and the profile is so small you can get it into most places. Worth doing. And like I said, it pulled this bolt out like it wasn't even there. It wasn't stuck at all, but you can see it's kind of mashed, so I'll need to source a new bolt before I put that back in. And from there I'll leave it for tonight because quite frankly I've had enough and I go have a red wine, and I'll pick this up probably tomorrow, but I'll do an update very shortly and let you know how I go. But I hope, what my intention is to create a series of videos. We'll make a library, so and I'm hoping other people will do the same. Maybe I kickstart the ball. The idea is that for DIYers, that we video record what it is that we do to maintain our cars, how we service our cars, you know, how to change a timing belt, how to change injectors, you know, tips, tricks, gotchas, so that if nothing and you're caught in the middle of nowhere or you're stuck, you can at least try and get yourself out of some trouble. Or if you're mechanically inclined, you can have a crack at it yourself. And certainly there's been a wealth of information coming from the Facebook page, the WA 4x4 Prado page. Cheers guys, and certainly Oz Prado and Anthony 4x4, call out to you, buddy. So thanks for your help. All right, that's it for the moment. I'll continue this probably tomorrow. Okay.